Zelensky's first month in office, he was given a threat letter, effectively by the U.S. State Department, where they had something like 70 U.S.-funded NGOs who wrote a letter to Zelensky ordering him not to cross the below-listed red lines, or else there will be political instability in your country.
The righteous and humanitarian war that soon, potentially, we could all be dying for, has at least the noblest of motivations: the protection of Ukrainian people and the protection of Ukrainian democracy. And anyone who says otherwise is a pro-Putin apologist, a heretic, and a warmonger. You can choose the order of those. We are, after all, living in a democracy. But what does democracy mean now? Does it mean a nation that's governed in accordance with the will of the people that live there, where public officials regard themselves as public servants? Or does it mean a set of institutions that have been captured by centralized powers and are regarded as the weapons of the state? We're going to have a better understanding of which of those two definitions is more likely true after watching Mike Benz commune on that subject with Joe Rogan. This is an amazing moment that will help you understand at depth. We've got to get Mike Benz back on this show pretty soon. I've got his phone number somewhere. Let's ring him. But in the meantime, let's have a look at Mike Benz explaining exactly that.
Look at something called the redlines memo, which is I think I have it near the top of my X account, or you can look for just the phrase redlines memo, and you will see Zelensky's first month in office, he was given a threat letter, effectively by the U.S. State Department, where they had something like 70 U.S.-funded NGOs who wrote a letter to Zelensky ordering him not to cross the below-listed red lines, or else there will be political instability in your country. Now, political instability in the country caused by the U.S. State Department is the reason Zelensky ultimately became president.
Nice country you got there. You wouldn't want any political instability to get into that country, would you? This is the kind of racketeering that passes as rational statescraft under the likes of Victoria Nuland, the kind of names we know because of the integrity and great research of a man like Mike Benz, and because of the media reach of Joe Rogan. Now, these kind of figures that used to move in shadows so frequently they were almost shadows themselves are being exposed to the light of truth. We now know that whatever the complexity of the Ukraine-Russian conflict, when it comes to the interests of powerful states and private institutions and NGOs, they're unlikely to be motivated by humanitarianism in the way they claim. And you can make the same assumptions when it comes to ecological and environmental issues. While they may be bombarding you with a million reasons why you should sit still and get rid of your car and shut your mouth and watch their sanctioned and prescribed television programs or internet sites, we are beginning to understand now at depth that whether they know it or not, they are the agencies of darkness. They are the conduits and amplifiers of a message that disconnects you from reality. The first thing you have to do is disconnect people from truth. Once people don't know the truth anymore, or what the truth is, or how to even measure truth, they become malleable. Once your only compass for making your way through the oceans of life becomes the pursuit of your own pleasure and the avoidance of your own fear, what kind of conduit for greatness are you? You're nothing but a numbed out little cell, hollowed out and occupied by their mentality and their mantras. And that's exactly how they would have you. That's why the disruption represented by these new emergent political forces is so important. And note the significance of the fact that of what they say is, we're here to get out of your way and to govern. Note the curious and extraordinary anomaly of Trump saying, we'll give you 100% tariffs if you do that, or 25% tariffs if you do this. How odd to see the language spoken plainly in the light of day. How alarming for those that dwell in darkness to see the mythic emergent Trump speaking a language that they all speak, but speaking it out loud and in plain English, rather than in the compassion-cloaked code that they use to lie and to erode the systems and institutions that we can rely on. Institutions of faith, institutions of truth, institutions of justice and decency that once used to mean something when they were connected and alloyed to real virtue, but untethered now from great goodness, they float freely and become as gaseous clouds utilized only by the powerful.
The 2014 coup in Ukraine was U.S. and U.K. orchestrated political instability to have a January 6th style mob destabilize the government and literally run it out of the country. And they gave him red lines on every single aspect of what he could do as president. Security red lines, cultural red lines, energy policy red lines.
What were these red lines, like cultural red lines?
So, for example, that he could not allow the use of Russian language to be aired on any of the major Ukrainian media channels. This was part of a drive by the U.S. State Department in tandem with the censorship work that started at that same time in order to prevent the sort of affinity, the sort of Russian affinity network that happens because of Russian propaganda spreading from Russian language news sources, and to try to pry the country off of the Russian ethnic faction and have essentially the Ukrainian dialect.
This is in response for what happened in Crimea?
Yes, and Crimea and the Donbass, the whole eastern side breakaway. But this is effectively the long arm of Langley, the long arm of the State Department and CIA, telling Ukrainians that they can't, what kind of language they can use in their own country. Ukraine was effectively forced to transfer over its education ministry to an EU commissioning body so that Russian adjacent mythologies couldn't be taught in the country. They were told what industries they needed to privatize and to block any attempt to maintain sovereign control of those energy assets. This is ultimately what gave rise to the Burisma scandal, by the way, and the Hunter Biden State Department affairs that ran through all of that, which is a whole other fascinating topic, I should add. But the fact
I'd love
is,
to get back to that. Yeah.
But this is every aspect of Ukrainian society effectively top-down controlled by democratic institutions funded by the U.S. government, when it's stock standard that the only reason we do that, he who calls the piper, who pays the piper calls the tune. They're being funded to exert this soft power issue, this soft power force on the Ukrainian government, and Zelensky knows that force, because the only reason he occupies the power that he does is because that force ushered him in through the sequence of events from Yatsenyuk in 2014 through up to him. And so the issue is those are the institutions. By the way, that whole thing was run through something called the Ukraine Crisis Media Center, which is effectively a suite of media institutions in the area that are CIA conduits, like the Kiev Independent, which is funded by the National Endowment for Democracy. The National Endowment for Democracy is one of the most pernicious forces in the entirety of the censorship industry. And you were talking with Mark Andreessen about NGOs and their role in internet censorship. And, he was, I think, fleshing out sort of the concept of a GONGO, a government-organized, non-governmental organization.
Well, now, thanks to new media, we are granted rare and beautiful insights into a world that was previously concealed. Now we are all awakening together. Now we are armed with the necessary spiritual armor required to go into the warfare that we're all invited into. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and chat? If you're watching this anywhere other than Rumble, then for heaven's sake, step into the sweet stream of freedom. Enjoy free speech. Become an Awaken Wonder. The Root brand have launched this fantastic product called Clean Slate. It's been going for 5 years. In that 5 years, they've sold over 1 million bottles, and it's proven to remove these toxic metals, biotoxins, graphene, glyphosate, viral particles, nanoparticles, and more. Now, if this product can decalcify and recrystallize your pineal gland and clean up your body, that means that you will benefit neurologically and obviously spiritually. A multi-patented nanobiotechnologist has taken the science of the crystal behind it and turned it into the most advanced solution for cleaning up the body, mind, and spirit. Obviously, this is significant because you only have to glance at the news for an hour or so to see that toxicity is entering our systems through the air, through the food, and through the soil. We have to clean up ourselves first in order to unlock the potential that is within us. This is part of our shared awakening. To take advantage of this incredible product, go to russellbrand.com/Russell Brand and get a clean slate today. Why not take advantage of the opportunity to detoxify using an incredible product that seems to straddle multiple extraordinary worlds? There's a link in the description. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.